You are not doing well at all, and then the next minute you're having the best writing day of your life. I haven't experienced drafting anxiety in so long. You know how earlier in this vlog I was like, oh, 7th Virtue is going so well. I may have spoken too soon. Hi guys, I'm feeling shit about my writing. How are you? I have not been feeling confident at all about my writing in the last couple of days. For those of you who may not know me, I've been writing for nearly 10 years. I've written 12 novels. I am currently working on a short story collection that I'm almost done, and I'm also working on a poetry collection. I've been published, at least over 10 publications. I have been nominated for several awards, including the prestigious CBC Short Story Prize. I was nominated for an award today. The Thames Review nominated me for Best of the Net for my short story Where to Run When the Lamb Roars, which is free to read online if you want to check it out. I also won a writing scholarship for my poetry through my school today. So you'd think, all of that combined, that I would be at the height of confidence, and yet I'm feeling so small. Genuinely right now is probably one of the least confident moments I've had in a long time when it comes to my writing. I've been writing a fantasy novel. It's adult fantasy. It's called 7th Virtue for the last year and a bit. I started it in May of 2021. And this book has been a bit of a journey. It's been exciting. I'm not a fantasy writer. I actually, for the past couple of years, have been writing solely literary fiction. So I haven't really written genre fiction, especially genre fiction that is speculative. I'm also not a fantasy writer. I have never been much of a fantasy reader, and I've hardly really watched like fantasy movies. So fantasy was like a really brand new genre to me that I've been reading a lot more of recently and really falling in love with. But this is not something that is my forte. With that said, I started 7th Virtue to cheer myself up, to be like a fun little project where I could take my favorite characters and write them harming each other with magic. Just to see what would happen. I'm almost at 90,000 words in the manuscript, and I wrote what is probably one of the most exciting scenes in the book last night. It's funny to me that all of those things can coexist with my insecurity, my anxiety. I haven't experienced drafting anxiety in so long. Genuinely, it's been a long process. If you watched some of my old vlogs, I've been vlogging, I think, since I was 15 on this channel, you'd be able to hear me talk about how I was so anxious about my writing, and I was just not feeling great about my writing, and how things weren't really working out. And at the end of the day, I was experiencing a lot of drafting anxiety. I haven't experienced that in a while, and it's not that I got over the drafting anxiety, it's just that I learned to sort of let things go a little bit. But in the last year, something has sort of changed for me. I've had a little bit of a crisis when it comes to what I want out of my career, and ever since that happened, I've been feeling a lot of instability when it comes to my writing. I thought I would never write genre fiction again, let alone fantasy. I never thought I would be back in this boat where a majority of my earlier books were genre fiction. Because of that, I crafted this identity of me being a literary fiction writer who would always only ever write award-winning literary fiction. That sort of fell on its head last year. I learned how to love the genre. I learned how to pull on skills that I developed when I was younger, such as world building, that weren't as relevant to my literary fiction. And so that identity of being lit fic writer sort of started to dissolve. And with that dissolution also came a crisis. What the hell am I gonna do with my career? I think it's such a silly thing to get caught up on. Actually, I've been making YouTube shorts, like a series of writing advice from famous writers, and Cheryl Strayed has a fantastic essay that I had read in her book. I think it's called Tiny Beautiful Things. Anyway, pretty much she was like, don't worry about your career, you have no career. I was like, oh shit, she's right, I have no career. I'm somebody on this YouTube channel, I've been pushing and encouraging people, like, write for yourself. Don't push publication on yourself if you don't want to publish your writing. Despite developing this ideology and talking about it a lot on my channel, telling writers it's okay to be confident in your work first. You don't always need external validation to be a valid writer. That I'm in this position right now. And this is why I make these videos, because writing is not easy. It is difficult. You second guess yourself. No matter how successful I am, I can see, listen, you're doing something right. At the end of the day, I still feel terrible about my work right now. Last night I was drafting Seventh Virtue and I was trying so hard to get into this mode of, I don't know, there's this mode, I'm sure if you're more of a discovery writer, you know it yourself, of it's like an unconscious sort of lull. It's kind of a gorgeous moment when you're writing where the writing itself takes over and you don't think so much. It didn't necessarily not happen, and I did enjoy my writing session last night, but it let me down. It wasn't as exciting as I'd hoped for it to be, as exciting as, this is like the most exciting thing to happen in the book. And yet I was feeling so bogged down by my insecurity that I didn't even let myself really celebrate it. It's about 8 p.m. I have, like I said in my last vlog, an exorbitant amount of free time for some reason this semester. So I found myself a lot more able to consistently draft my book, which might also contribute to why I'm feeling this way. Usually I don't write my books when I'm at school at all, really. I might write 1,000 words here, 1,000 words there, but really it's not a consistent process because I'm very busy. But like I said, I have free time, so I have sort of had to contend with creating a new writing routine. I can't just kind of, not excuse, but like there's no school anymore. So like I have time. I'm just sitting here bored. And so I want to work more on my book. I'm going to be writing like a little bit of a chapter in Reeve's head. I actually have no idea what it's going to be. I think it's going to be several things. I think I might delve into her childhood. I might delve into her relationship and sort of her mother and stuff like that. And I love writing with Reeve, so I'm feeling good about it. Ignore my kettle, which is making a lot of noise. Something that's kind of funny is that I'm a pantser, but I've been feeling like so anxious that I'm like thinking of outlining this book. And I don't think that's a good reason, like for me at least, to outline, is like because of anxiety of like messing up a plot or it being bad or it not being exciting. What I want to do instead of like particularly outlining is just doing a bit of a brain dump. Ignore this big poof thing. It's for my microphone. Writing, my God. Wow, yesterday went magnificently. I don't even know where to begin with how good writing was yesterday. I'm kind of shocked. It's crazy how writing is this weird thing where one minute you are not doing well at all, and then the next minute you're having the best writing day of your life. And that's pretty much what happened to me yesterday. And it's such an unpredictable thing. I never would have thought last night that I would have gotten exactly what I'd hoped for, that I would end up writing something and fall into it and get into that unconscious rhythm that I was talking about earlier, but I did. Yesterday I wrote 4,300 words of Seventh Virtue, which was wild, and I absolutely loved every single minute of drafting this book. And I loved the writing. I thought the pacing was good. I thought it was quite clean for a first draft. I thought it was clever. I thought it was specific. It was detailed, but not too detailed. And I really thought it went well, which is in comparison to the day before where I was kind of laboring through this scene where it didn't feel right and I wasn't happy with it, and I was kind of like beating myself up a little bit because it wasn't everything that I'd hoped for or wanted. Honestly, it just shows how sometimes you just have to have patience with your work. I wrote some drama yesterday. I wrote some backstory. I wrote some cute little fluffy moments from Reeve's childhood, and I thought that was pretty beautiful what I was able to come up with. It also showed me that the problem with Seventh Virtue is not Seventh Virtue, and it's not me. It's that I might be writing, maybe the wrong ideas. For example, I might not be focusing on things that make me excited, and it really illuminated to me how different an experience writing can be when you actually write something that you like. It was shocking to me, like something that you're passionate about, something that's different, something that gives you the change you're looking for. I've been scripting a video about, things to do when your writing sucks, aka what to do when you really want to write, but you just can't write and you just hate everything you're writing. And one of my tips is to, add in something that you love. And I didn't think about doing that on a smaller scale yesterday. Usually I do that on a larger scale. Like, I'm unhappy about this subplot, so I kind of take it in a different direction. But on a scene level, it was so interesting, to add the sibling dynamic between Reeve and Lonan, which is what the majority of the chapter was yesterday, to write that instead of writing them miserable in the current timeline. Like, just that alone was enough to kickstart everything for me and really put everything into perspective. So I'm feeling great. Honestly, I'm gonna write more right now. This is the thing I love about writing when I'm a student and school is important. And if you're a student, especially when you're in high school, if you're in high school or younger, school is really important. When you get to university and you're an adult, listen to this conversation. My younger viewers, skip past this. But when you're in university, sometimes, like, at least for me, like, I have been nothing but a student basically my whole life. My education has always been very important to me. Being quote unquote smart has been really important to me. I didn't have really many friends, but I did have really good grades. So that has been like my overwhelming personality trait my entire life. When I came to university, I kind of loosened the reins, but still I wanted to do well. I also have a scholarship. For transparency means I'm getting a degree in writing because I had a 4-year scholarship, and every single year I had to work up to what was about like an 83% average, I think. I exceeded that because I can't just do the bare minimum. I don't know what's wrong with me. And I managed to get that scholarship renewed, which is crazy. I got it for every single year. I had to do that, and it was very stressful, very hard work, but I got my entire education paid for, something I don't have to worry about. Because school has been so ever consuming for me, I find myself prioritizing it a lot over my life. And it's strange because this semester is the first semester where I'm sitting back and I'm realizing I don't have to be like super miserable or super stressed for 8 months out of the year. So to be in a position where I'm lucky enough to have more time is making me like beyond grateful. I'm in this state of like fabulous gratitude. The entire last writing vlog, which I just filmed like 2 days ago, was me like in my downhill era. I wasn't obviously super happy because writing wasn't going very well, and I try not to let that affect my life, but I'm not gonna lie, it does. And so I'm so happy right now. 4,300 words, and I like all of them. Like, they're all so good. I think I'm going to hop back into Harrison's point of view now. It's about time. Let's see how he's doing. He's not doing that well. It could be kind of fun to fuck with him a little. So let's go do that. Let's mess up Harrison's life. Okay, another quick update. It's been a couple of hours. I haven't done any drafting yet because I was re-outlining kind of the book. I'm a pantser, but I've been keeping an ongoing outline in Scrivener. I'm gonna make an in-depth video on how I organize my book in Scrivener as somebody who actually doesn't write in Scrivener and who also is not an outliner. I write in Microsoft Word. That's just force of habit. It's something that I've just always done. So I haven't changed it. I can't get used to writing in Scrivener, but I did buy Scrivener for the sole purpose of outlining Seventh Virtue because it's a book that has a lot of information. So I've been keeping an ongoing outline. This is something that I tell myself I do with every book, but usually I fall off with it after like the first 5 chapters. This time around with Seventh Virtue, I've been going back like every 3 or 4 chapters and updating it, so it hasn't been that difficult. So I just updated it for the rest of chapter 13, 14, 15, and 16, and I'm working on 17. So I get to have some fun back in Harrison's head. Hi guys, it's the next morning. I had a really great writing night. So I wrote just under 3,000 words yesterday. So in like the last 2 days alone, I've written 7,000 words, which is really crazy. I'm doing this fun thing in Seventh Virtue where I'm mirroring what the 2 main characters, which are Harrison and Reeve, are doing. So Reeve kind of had a similar chapter where she like wakes up in a similar circumstance and has a similar conversation, and I'm kind of doing the same thing with Harrison. So Sunless Ground was Harrison basically having the same routine as Reeve, which was fun. Him and Foster actually get into a bit of an argument, which is crazy because they're best friends and they don't really fight with each other. So that was fun. It's drama. I was reading book 3 of the series not long ago, I think 2 nights ago, just to see how I wrote things, because that's my favorite fostered book that I've ever written. And I was inspired by sort of like the quippy back and forth dialogue. So I kind of incorporated that. I named my chapters just as an exercise in titling. If you write novels, I highly recommend naming your chapters. You don't have to keep them if you want to publish the book or whatever. Though I have noticed chapter titles are kind of coming back into style, especially in YA. But anyway, you don't have to keep them. The reason why I recommend it is because you'll be titling chapters way more frequently than novels, because you'll finish a chapter likely a lot faster than you could finish an entire novel. Something big has happened, and they are going to finally confront this issue, which, I mean, if you know the premise of the book, I feel like you can make an inference as to what has happened. You know how earlier in this vlog I was like, oh, Seventh Virtue is going so well, I'm living my best life. Well, I may have spoken too soon, but there is a but. It's been a couple of days since I last updated this video. I have been running around. The last week was just exhausting. I don't know why. Seventh Virtue's been going quite swimmingly, really. Like, the last couple of days has been really great. Yesterday, though, I tried to write and it didn't go the way that I'd hoped, and not gonna lie, it was discouraging. I was not feeling good. It's just strange for me because usually, like, I haven't felt this way in a while. Like, I think I've just been feeling a little bit insecure in my craft for the last couple of weeks, and it's not even an insecurity based off of like I'm insecure about a particular thing. I feel like it's more linked to like a larger kind of structural issue, me revising my life, structural issue with my, like, what I want out of publishing, which is annoying because not everything is about publishing, but sometimes you just can't stop thinking about it. Because that's been affecting me over the last couple of weeks periodically, it has been a little scary, I think, when it comes to writing, especially when writing goes wrong. Despite everything kind of not working out in my favor, I just decided to kind of like stop where I was writing, because I was like, this isn't working out. And I talked to my sister about it, and thank heavens that I have such a smart critique partner and sister. She helped me sort through the idea and sort of fix, like, basically I knew there was an issue and I knew what the issue was, but I hadn't really figured out how to get out of the issue. Now I know how to get out of the issue. It is nearly 10 o'clock at night. I'm not going to write for very long because I'm tired and I want to sleep, but I want to like still give it a chance and see how it goes. So I'm just going to do like a quick like 20-minute sprint and then probably throw in the towel. I've turned off all the lights except for the one behind me, so it's a little spooky looking, but I just went to go cut out what I'd written yesterday. It was not very much. It was probably like 200 words of what I'd written yesterday, because honestly, I didn't get that far. And I have something called a trash pile. I'll link my video on how I organize my writing documents, but a trash pile is integral to when I'm writing novels. I never delete anything unless it's like a sentence that I know I'm never gonna need. That's like very basic information. I always copy and paste my deleted writing into a different document. Do I ever revisit that writing? Well, sometimes I do. Most of the times when it comes to my trash piles, they end up being a couple thousand words. The longest was like, I think 60,000 words or 40,000 words. So there are some novels where I just cut out a lot of writing. Funnily, with Seventh Virtue, even though this is one of my longest manuscripts in recent history at around 98,000 words right now, I only have, like, including the stuff that I just copy and pasted, I only deleted like 1,100 words out of every other thing that I've written in this book, which is funny, and I appreciate that because I know that there are so many bad scenes in this book. Bad scenes, just scenes that could be summarized. They don't need to be scenes that I could have just, you know, put in there, but I just stuck to it, and I kind of appreciate that about past me. It makes me feel better. Like, you know, there's nothing wrong with having the trash pile documents. I need them. Honestly, they're very helpful for my process, but it was kind of interesting to see, like, clearly I didn't care to trash any of Seventh Virtue. I'm just taking a look at the chapter right now. My dishwasher is being very loud, so sorry, but I have an idea for what I want to happen. But I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to reread the parts that I really like of this book that I just wrote quite recently. It's chapters. There were a couple chapters I couldn't remember the names of, so right now we have many different chapters. The most recent ones, chapter 13, Caritas' Garden, or is it Charitas? I don't know. Foreign Waters is chapter 14. Chapter 15 is Ash Bone. And chapter 16 is True Gem. Chapter 17, Sunless Ground, which I really like. Chapter 18 rat experiment, and then chapter 19 is half because it's a really fun chapter where it's quite literally half. Like, it's poetry, I say, not in like that the prose is poetic, but that the way that I've written it, I'm pulling on my poetry degree. Chapter 17, 18, and 19 are kind of like short sequences that flip between Reeve and Harrison, which is kind of fun. Ash Bone is the drama. Chapter 16 is also the one that I want to reread right now, though, because it is in Reeve's perspective and it has a lot of really pure memories that I want to absorb. And I really enjoyed writing it, so I'm gonna do that first. I just pulled my microphone off of my camera so I can talk quieter, because I want to read a little cute excerpt. I think it's cute. Reeve is recalling like what her first memory of meeting Lonan, which is funny because in the original lore of Fostered, obviously this is very different how they meet each other. It has nothing to do with how I've come up with it, but one of the best things, I've said this before about Seventh Virtue, is that I get to make my characters that I love so much and that love each other so much meet each other for the first time again. So Reeve and Lonan are meeting each other. They're half siblings and they didn't know each other growing up. That's the same from the original lore. They didn't know each other, and they share a mother, and he pretty much was raised as an only child. That's a little different from the original lore, but she grew up with her older sister. But in this scene, Lonan is 12 and Reeve is 10. So I want to read a little bit of it. Let's do quiet ASMR story time moment of this writing vlog. This is the opening of part 3. Chapter 16, True Gem. Reeve and Lonan first met in a dingy motel room. She was 10, he was 12. Back then, her mother refused to let her cut her hair short like she wanted, so long tresses strung down Reeve's back like a sallow vine. She'd taken to weaving it into a single braid, but hadn't had time before her mother shuffled her out the door of their home, a pearl-white estate an hour north of Manhattan, and into the back of her champagne Buick. Lonan stood near the motel room's backmost bed, apparently guarding his suitcase. He'd caught lice on a school trip a month before, and as a result, his father, who'd pulled up to the motel 5 minutes before, nudged his son out of the back seat and driven away, buzzed it clean off. Jesus Christ. What I meant to say there, the phrasing. He'd caught lice on a school trip a month before, and as a result, his father had buzzed it off, clean off his hair. Oh, Jesus. Anyway, whatever, it's fine. This is a first draft, ma'am. This is a first draft. Reeve's first impression of him was that he was as vulnerable as a rabbit circled by a murder of crows. This is her talking about she doesn't want a brother. Some of the other girls at school had brothers, and sure, they mostly didn't like them, accused them of shooting them with toy guns, of holding candles close to their hair, and threatening, as a joke of course, to burn it all. By the way, is based off of my experience with my brothers. I was trying to think, I asked my sister, I was like, what are annoying things that our brothers do? Yeah, and those are some of them. I love my brothers. Still, they were the same girls to clap loudest at their brother's Christmas pageant show, the same girls who hugged their brothers tight on holidays. The difference between Reeve and those girls is that she knew brothers were overrated. Sisters were the true gems. Her older sister Anna was 10, only a few months younger than Lonan, and she was the bravest person Reeve knew. At recess, Anna would scale cedarwood trees in the yard and ignore the teacher's reprimands for her to come down right away. She'd seen her sister be pried off a tree's limb by a janitor more than once. Anna also knew what it meant to be liked. She'd tuck butterfly temporary tattoos into her school books and share them out with the other girls in her class. She'd call the shots at hopscotch, but let everyone, even the quietest kids, join her. Reeve was not brave like her sister, nor was she liked. But that didn't matter. Anna was brave. Anna was liked, therefore, Reeve could be whatever she wanted. I love being in her perspective. She's so much more interesting than Harrison. I love Harrison, but oh God, sometimes he's annoying to write. The first thing she says to Lonan Reeve ever in her life is, "You look like a pigeon." If there's one thing I could leave you off with as I say goodbye to this vlog, is that Writing is something that's constantly changing. If you were like me at the very beginning of this vlog and you're currently not feeling great about your work, you're feeling like you could do more, and you're also not sure where to go, you're confused about what you want about your writing, you know that you're good at something, but you also want to try something else, I'm with you in your experience, and you've got this. And if you're like me toward the end of this vlog, who is surprised by how much I could still love my work, who is surprised that writing could go well, who is surprised that my life can still hold writing as a thing in it, you're also very valid. In this clip, watch me hit 100,000 words in my manuscript, which is the first time I've hit 100,000 words in a manuscript in probably 5 years. This moment is just as special to me as I hope it is to you. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I'll see you in another video. Bye.